Hello, my people. I hope you're doing fantastic. So, today I'm actually going to town because I feel like eating some African food. So, I was thinking that I would bring you guys along and we could go to the African market and you guys can see what I'll be grabbing and what we're going to be making for dinner. So, obviously, I'll be doing other stuff. I'll be the cook's helper, as I think I've mentioned it before. It's my husband who's actually great. I can cook, but he's just like really, really good at cooking. So I know fish is going to be on the menu. So I'm just going to go buy maybe some plantains and maybe goat. Y'all love goat? Because I love me some goat. I'm not like a meat eater, but whenever my husband makes goat, mwah, delicious. So in the meantime, I also wanted to tell you guys a little bit about, let me just remove these glasses, about the book that I am currently reading. So I'm reading Necessary Sins by Elizabeth Bell. Now, when was this book published? Let me just tell you. So I'm this much into the book and I'm actually enjoying it. Essentially, this book is set in Saint-Domingue. And if you guys know, Saint-Domingue was the old name for Haiti today. And it's during the 1700s. As I'm saying, it's said in Saint-Domingue, which is called Haiti today. So what happens is that we follow a family of Lazare. So in French, it's Lazare. Now, I'm not sure if in English it's Lazari or would you call Lazare, but I mean, I'll call this family. Oh my gosh, I'm sweaty, you guys. So sorry. My face is so shiny. So we follow that family, and what happens at the beginning of the story is that there's this, what's her name? Marguerite? I believe that's her name. And she's married to a man that's way older than her. She falls in love with a man that's younger than her. They run away and they set house in Saint-Domingue, which is Haiti. And then there they have a family. She has 3 boys and 1 daughter, okay? And obviously they're on a plantation. They own slaves, okay? And this is a white family. Okay, so the story really picks up because then what happens, I think there is an insurrection or like an uprising of slaves on that plantation. And what happens, oh Lord, what happens is that there's this little boy, her son, he's really young. Out of the 3 boys, she tells him to go in a latrine that they built to hide there. So she goes to hide there and she calls him, like, because she wants to hide with them because she's scared that something's gonna happen. But he's like, no, I have to go help. So she stays there for like the longest time. Like, it's getting dark, and then at some point she hears like the loudest noise and a scream. And then after a few minutes, she goes up, comes out of the latrine and then takes a walk on her plantation, and she can see like destruction everywhere. And then she goes somewhere where she thinks that she's gonna see her sons, and all she sees is 3 decapitated bodies, like their heads cut off and their bodies there. Like, she screams, and it's the way, like, she doesn't like wail or anything like that. The author didn't make this mother who's seeing her 3 children with their heads cut off wail. Like, how do you not? Anyways, I guess she's very scared to, because apparently, there might still be some black slaves hiding there, or so I guess that's why she doesn't want to make noise. So she goes and tries to find her husband. His name is, I recall, is Mathieu. And then she finds him. He's like, I think his arm is stuck like in a mill that they were using, I guess, to do the sugarcane then. And she goes to him and he looks like he's alive, and he is alive. And then he just tells her one message: find our grandson and our daughter. And then he passes away because obviously he's in bad shape. No problem. She cries a little, but then she's like, okay, let me go find my daughter. She goes to find her daughter and in the house, and of course the house is like dilapidated at this point, but she finds her daughter obviously dead, her stomach cut off. I think she was pregnant. I know, you guys, it's very gruesome, but that's what happened. And obviously she's shocked, but then she goes and she's crying, and then she hears a little cry, and it's that grandson. But now the thing with this grandson is that he is the offspring of a mulatto slave. And that mulatto slave, Marguerite, had asked that she be taken away because she was not happy that she was carrying her son's kid, and she dared say that it was her was seducing her sons. Y'all know that back then, black bodies, black women didn't have much choice over their bodies. These planters, these overseers, these enslavers could take advantage of their bodies without them saying nothing. So this woman, the gall for her to think that she seduced one of her boys. Anyways, so she sees the mom and the grandson, obviously. And long story, guys, I have to wrap up. She shoots the mom of the son. And then she takes the son, her grandson, and decides to come up with a story because she wants to explain. So the grandson does look white, except that his nose is a bit wide. And he does have blue eyes. He does have white skin, but there's a little darker tone to it. So she decides that she's going to pass him as like in Spanish and white. So that's where I am not at the story. More has happened. Now, this little boy is now all grown. He's married to a deaf white woman. And that deaf white woman has given him, Joseph is the son. There's Ellen, there's Kathy, and I think there's another daughter. So they have 4 kids in total. But we really following Joseph, the son, who wants to become a priest. And where I am, he's just discovering that his dad has a little bit of African blood in him, and he's angry, he's mad. Like there's a point in the story where him and his cousin, they want to go swimming, and they go swimming naked, and Joseph doesn't want to remove his clothes because his private parts are a bit darker. For all my black people, y'all know that part, it doesn't catch sun, but it's always the darkest part of her body. So anyways, so he's like feeling so self-conscious, like he's angry because he overheard a woman that was on Saint Domingue. Because, oh, by the way, they left that plantation, okay? Now they're living in Charleston, okay? That's where they're now living. It was Marguerite, the grandmother, who raised the father of Joseph, okay? So I just wanted to put it out there. So anyway, so he's like infuriated by the fact that he's been tainted by African blood and slaver blood. And oh my gosh, this story, you guys, is actually very interesting. And what is so interesting is the language, the fact that they're using like mulatto, octagon, all those languages, and just like negresse, the words that they're used, like mulâtre a bit, which is mulatto, I guess. So, and it's the dialogue that happens between these white women and how they speak at the slaves, not to the slaves, but at the way there's some parts where they say, like, these black slaves, they're always in heat, they're like animals, they don't think. Like the derogatory comments or things that these people felt and said about enslaved people back then is absolutely. Anyways, and I just want to say this, okay? You guys, when the mom lost her 3 sons, her kids, her 4 daughters in such a horrible way, I wanted to find it in me and feel sympathy for this woman. But then when I know the context and with knowing the story, the history of what enslavers did, and it's hard for me to feel sympathy for the white women who lost their kids so tragically because of the reasons why they even had to lose their sons. They were keeping people enslaved and mistreating them. And we've heard the horrors that black people had endured at the hands of these planters. Okay. So when I read that part, I was like, okay. It's what it is, right? It's what it is. Anyways, you guys, so that's where I'm at. I will update you a little bit later. Okay. But for now, let's drive to the African market. All right, you guys, so I just got back from the market, so I'm gonna start cooking. And it's a bit hectic in the kitchen because husband is there and I'll be there, so I'm just gonna show you guys the end result. Okay, I'm gonna show you the stuff I'll be cooking and just when it's ready because it's hectic in the kitchen. So we have kale and then spinach. That'll be the vegetable that I'll be eating with the goat. And then we have hot scotch, habanero scotch. Okay, y'all get it. I already put the goat to boil because, you know, it's a bit hard. So we need to boil it for it to be a bit tender. So it's already in there. Ooh, I can't wait, y'all. I can't wait. Have you already worked on the fish? Look at the sear and the line on this. Look at that. Yes. That's one of our favorite meal. Like, it's a fish, especially the red snapper. Yeah, we're about to barbecue this stuff, man. So I'm almost done. So for the kids, they won't be having the same thing as we're having, but we decided to make burger and wedges and a little coleslaw on the side. So here we have coleslaw already packaged, mayo, salt, vinegar, and your lemon. And here I have my little ingredients, green onion, cilantro, and
plus a celery.
And then I'll just make it real quick.
"24 hours later."
Hi everyone. Whew, forgive me my natural self here, but I mean it's a couple of days since I last updated you on this lovely book. Okay, it's funny, huh? Because you think as a reader you would be very comfortable with words, but the English language can be a bit tricky. So Necessary Sins by Elizabeth Bell. All right, for all my ladies, gentlemen who are fans of historical fiction, this book was spectacular. I enjoyed this book. So when I last updated you, I was talking to you about Joseph, and I just listened to the clip. I left it at he was a bit shy to show his private parts because, you know, he's dark there, and also about the mom who lost, you know, all her children. Now, I actually finished the book, okay? And when you see all these places that I've tabbed, it's not because there are wise things that I want to remember. It is, in fact, things that were said to Black people during that time. Those are the things that I have highlighted. And I want to open up this review by reading you guys a couple of quotes. So at this point, where I'm gonna start to tell you Joseph's story is that, he grew up and he has this desire to join priesthood. It's like in him, even though his dad, I figured his dad's name, it's René, even though his dad's is totally against it because he feels that he will be missing out, you know what I mean, on the pleasures of marriage and all that it comes with. But Joseph is not hearing it. So anyways, at this point, he's spoken to his mentor and he is gone to Rome to study there for a couple of years. So while he's there are a couple of the priests, young like him, and he meets this other African priest who's dark skinned and he's from Senegal. And at some point in the book, it says he was keeping his distance for the African sake as well as his own, Joseph told himself. Hunter professors warned them that they must not form friendships. They must surrender their love for their families and never again become attached to another human being. They must remain aloof from this imperfect world. All their attention must be focused on God. And what the author did with this book is quite spectacular. Apart from, all these type of references, I mean, the amount of research that went into this book, y'all, she said about 30 years. And frankly, to tell you the truth, I'm excited for the second part. Like, I want to read the second installment in this series. So anyways, you guys, so right now I'm actually about to make supper for the kids and we're gonna go outside so I can talk to you a little bit more about the book and the current book that I'm reading since I am finished this one. Okay, so stay tuned. So I've already marinated the chicken, so today we'll be just having rice, cassava leaves, which is a Congolese vegetable, some sauce, and I'll just do this in the oven. That's all. So the food is in the oven, it's almost ready, and I just wanted to go ahead and talk to you about the book. Finally, it's not so bad outside, it's windy, so you can feel the heat, but it's not excruciating. Like, I can sit here, sip on my smoothie, and then I feel refreshed. I also have my water. It's like melted. Hydrate, y'all. What? Hydrate. Okay, you guys, so let's go back to Necessary Sins by Elizabeth Bell. So, as I said, Joseph has arrived in Rome, and there he's studying to become a priest. And at the same time, he's struggling hard with his sexuality, in the sense that it's natural for a man to have, I guess, a boner or stuff like that. And he sees that as a bad thing, so he's always confessing, because they have their like personal confessors that they go to, and every time he has this type of reaction with his body, he feels that he's sinning, so he's there and he confesses about that. He's there for some time, and after a while he goes back home. And I do love Joseph's dad, René. He's actually a different character, because remember, he's the one 25% black because his mom was mulattoes, and the dad, which was the dad of René, which was one of the sons of that I talked to you about it, in the beginning, that was killed, obviously was white. So I guess he's very white, right? So he can pass for white basically. At this point, he returns home and he has to deal with a lot of things. He's about to take his vow to become a priest, but something happens. He meets this beautiful Irish woman, and her name is Tessa. And as soon as he sees Tessa, there's obviously an attraction between them. They have this conversation while he's there working on the garden, things like that. And as soon as they meet, they're having a beautiful conversation and stuff like that. And at some point, he admits to her that he's starting to become a priest. You can see her face, crestfalling, because obviously she saw something there, and the way they talked, she thought there was gonna be something, but nothing happens. Let me just see, before I continue the story, there's some other quotes that I wanted to share with you guys. Oh, and what I like about the way she broke down her books, it's in parts. So part 3, the man that was a thing, and then obviously 1825 to 1835. So I think this story starts in the 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. And then each chapter, when she starts a chapter, she always writes a quote. And these are real quotes, you guys. So for example, this one says, "However pure and sparkling the rills at which others may drink, he puts his lips to the very rock which a divine wand has struck, and he sucks in its waters as they gush forth living." Nicholas Cardinal Wiseman on being a seminarian in Rome, Recollections of the Last Four Popes and of Rome in Their Times, 1858. So she has a quote in each chapter, which she starts the chapter with. Look at the things that I highlighted. Look at this. A horrible little Negro. Yo, the things I read in this book, I was like, I can't deal. So anyways, as I mentioned, so something happens to Tessa. I'm gonna find the quotes that I want to read to you guys. So obviously he admits to her that he's a priest and there's nothing that can happen. No problem. They move on, and a lot of things happen with Joseph's family. So his sister is in love with Tessa's brother, so they want to be together. But then the parents are like, one, they're Irish, okay? And I don't know if you guys know a little bit of history, but back then, Catholics and Protestants were going at it, So can you imagine, okay? That is going on. And then there are also talks during that time of slave rebellions, slave fugitives, and things like that. And there are issues between Catholics and Protestants. And at the same time, there are issues of low whites and, upper whites, meaning Irish were not really considered whites back then. And at that time, they usually held lower scale jobs, and they were usually very poor. So Tessa, she left Ireland to have a better life in Charleston. This story is set in Charleston. Tessa's brother and Joseph's sister are in love. They want to get married, but the parents are like, first of all, he has to have a nice job so that he can take care of you. And at that time, there's this white planter that actually is nearby, has a whole plantation, okay, where there are plenty of slaves there working that plantation. And he decides that he can give Tessa's brother, I think his name was Liam, Tessa's brother named Liam, he can give him a job, but there's a condition. They work the contract out and things like that, and then Tessa's brother is finally, he's not well off, but he's working to take care of Joseph's sister. So that's fine. And then at some point, the planter decides that, he's in love with Tessa and he wants to marry Tessa. So that's the condition there, right? He marries the sister, and then Liam gets to have like a good job, right? So anyway, the planter decides that he's gonna marry Tessa, and then Tessa, obviously, she has no better prospects. She's not in love with this man. She has feelings for the priest, but she knows there can never be anything. Long story short, the planter marries, we're gonna call him the enslaver, the colonizer, the enslaver. He marries Tessa, and they have a relationship, a marriage, okay? Not all things is well. The first day that she has relations with her husband, she actually goes to see Joseph, and she goes to confess because Joseph has taken, at this point, he's taken his vows. He's officially become a priest, okay, at this point, I believe. And then she goes to see him, and she's like, she's crying. She's like, it's hurting, and she doesn't understand. Like, and obviously, Joseph himself does not know the workings of the human body. He has no idea. And I remember at the beginning of the story, like a little further before in the story, René, Joseph's dad, was trying to tell him to at least study the books, the anatomy of human being, because yes, he will have people confessing about certain things, and unfortunately, priesthood or Catholic taught a lot of, like, they forbid a lot of things. Man, you guys, I mean, this book was thorough. The way she talked about the religious aspects, I mean, it's heavy on the religious aspects. She had quotes from the Bible. She had, like, writings according to, like, this particular saint and this particular saint, and all these other writings that Roman Catholics, priests added on top of the Bible, their own interpretation of the Bible. So can you imagine, in a marriage, men and women had to deal with all of these things, such as you cannot have pleasure. The man has to be able to have, to take your body, and it's just for procreation. Y'all, it was all there, and I was just cringing. Like, I need to find those parts so you just can imagine. So anyways, Joseph is like in this pickle. He doesn't know what to tell her, so he decides to go to his dad, because his dad is actually a doctor, and he's really well knowledgeable with the woman's body and the man's body, right? So he goes and asks for advice to his dad, and his dad tells her, okay, so this is what's gonna happen. She needs, foreplay. She needs, like, he gives her details, and you could see how Joseph is like, like, he's getting red, and he's like so outraged, and he thinks his dad is sinning and stuff like that. And his dad can understand that from his son, and he's like, you know what? Let me just give you this booklet, give it to her. It'll explain a lot of things and make life easier for her. No problem. Long story short, guys, I will spare the details. Joseph goes back to Tessa, gives her that booklet, and then a few days after, Tessa's a bit okay. She's not all distraught like before, but she's fine. She's happy and all. And what happens next, you guys, was just like, I was shocked. Tessa falls. She gets pregnant, and unfortunately, she miscarries. Okay. And at this point, you start to see the planter's personality. He's not a soft man. He's not a man that cares about his wife. He just cares about his plantation. He's gone most of the time, and he wants to just have children so he can have his kids that will take care of the plantation when he's gone. And plus, his dad, the planter's dad, told him that if you want to inherit this plantation, you have to give me a descendant. What did you call an heir, or a couple of them. Okay, so obviously he's a bit pressured. So Tessa miscarries the first, and every time, the first time that happens, Joseph is there, and he's there to console her and all that stuff. There's a conversation here that Tessa has with Joseph, and she tells him about how she feels that she sinned because she married the planter, and he asks her, why do you feel that the reason why you lost the baby is because you married the planter? And she explains the reasons I explained to you guys. She did that because she wanted her brother to have a job so he can marry Joseph's sister, and she feels that God is punishing her. Yo, this woman lost 6 children, miscarried every single one of them, and she was pregnant in less than like 2 years, because this planter did not even give her body nor her time to rest. I was absolutely disconcerted when I was reading this. My mouth was gaping. I was like, what is going on here? And at some point she cuts her hair, like pixie short, and the priest is like, what have you done to her? Because the beginning they describe how she has this flowy, long, black hair, beautiful, and all of that, smelling of God knows what kind of plants. And she's like, I cut it as a sacrifice, so God will let me keep the next child, to show him that nothing else matters to me. That's what she said. again, I emphasize the fact that everything that happened in this book, they explained it away with God this, God that, God this, God that, God this, God that. Like when I say heavy, everything was God, God, and God. That happens, and I want to say something about the father, René. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this part in the previous video, but at some point Joseph sees that, not Joseph, sorry, René sees that his son is really struggling with this African ancestry and things like that. He finally tells him about how he discovered that whole part when he finally went to Saint-Domingue to visit his mom. Because at some point, I don't know if you recall this, but his mom was shot at the beginning of the story, but apparently she survived. So when he heard of that, he heard it through the vineyards. So he decided that he's gonna go and then meet his mom. So I like this part. This is where he tells Joseph, my mother was 16 years old when it happened, 14 when she gave birth to me. When it happened, you can understand when the grandmother's son raped René, Joseph's mother. 14 when she gave birth to me. Can y'all imagine? We cried for hours and talked for 2 days straight. Her mother's people, my people, and he says, your people, they're called the Yoruba. My mother's true name is Ife. Ah! I love the African part. Y'all know I'm always like looking for these little African gems. And then he says, Joseph could only guess at how that might be spelled, but the pronunciation wasn't far from her French name, Eve. Before I was baptized, René, my mother named me Ekundayo. Hey! So René is named, his African name is Ekundayo. So I love that part. I love this part. I highlighted this part. So here, what's going on? So they talk about Edward. Oh yeah, the planter is Protestant and Tessa obviously is Catholic. So our own emancipator, O'Connell, called slaves the saddest people the sun sees. In Parliament, he was instrumental in passing the act that abolished slavery in the British West Indies. Miss Conley explained to Joseph in a low voice as they watched a Negro repainting the piazza. I never ever thought I would own another human being. 'Tis a sin, isn't it? This was not the first time Joseph had been faced with a question. The sin is in how you treat your slaves, he answered, echoing Bishop England and the other priests he consulted. If you are a good Christian mistress, you can improve their earthly lives and even save their souls. Yo, this is what I'm talking about, how they used God, Christianity, religion to excuse their treatment of black people. Look, this man is obviously a priest, and not only that, he's descendant of the same people to whom this treatment has befallen upon. And this is why he's saying your treatment of the slave is, you have to treat them well and possibly save their soul, but please let them continue being enslaved. Jesus Christ. Anyways, you guys, so like I said, there are many other quotes. I think I have to end this story before this whole thing gets too long. As I said, Tessa miscarried about 6 children, and the 7th one was able to survive. Okay, now the story with that 7th is that her pregnancy, that last pregnancy, was so hard, she thought she was gonna die. The dad, and by the way, Joseph's dad is the one that actually takes care. He's like the, how you call it, the midwife, the one that actually helps a lot of people give birth. So he was there at every miscarriage that Tessa had. So he considered Tessa like his daughter. And as, I don't know if I mentioned that, but Joseph has a couple of sisters, right? So Kathy and Ellen, and he calls her Ellie. Something happens to Ellie, she falls sick, and they discover that she has a lump and it's growing and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna talk about her story particularly, but just know that they discovered that, and it will set off a lot of events, especially in Joseph's life and his realization and his relationship with God, So yeah, the father comes to this 7th childbearing of Tessa, and as I said, she's losing blood. They're all worried, and Joseph is there praying to God, like praying on his knee, begging God, he could save this child, and stuff like that. Joseph's father tells him to go into the room and speak with Tessa because she needs to confess certain things. And one aspect that I forgot to mention is that all these miscarried kids, apparently they're in purgatory or they're in limbo because they didn't have time to confess the sins. So they didn't have time to accept Jesus. So these babies are just gonna hanging somewhere. That was the explanation that Joseph gave to Tessa about her 6 unborn children or miscarried children. That happens, and what ensues after in that room when Tessa confesses to Joseph is that she confesses that she loves him. Like literally, this woman like screaming, crying because she's in pain, like she's bleeding, and she's trying because she thinks she's gonna die. So she's like her last rite or last confession, and she's like, oh, the man, I love the man, and blah blah blah. Oh Lord, and obviously Joseph hears that and he's like not mortified but like he's petrified because he's been feeling the same things. Like he's been in love with Tessa, but every time he's tried to really suffocate those feelings to the point where you've heard those stories of like those priests that actually whip themselves. How do you call them? They have a word, mortify their body or something like that. He went to fast because he wanted to suffocate, kill those feelings that he was having for Tessa, especially a married woman, So when she says that, like he leaves, and long story short, apparently the whole family was outside the door, so they kind of knew. And he does have a conversation with his dad at some point. He's like, "We seen it. Like we can feel the tension between them too." And he's like it can't happen. Like 1, I'm a priest. Okay. 2, she's a married woman, and it's a no. Like I'm not even gonna indulge this feelings. Like I'm not. But as days go by, they start to be in each other's proximity, which he avoided at all costs. Even at church, like he'd be in church and he would like from the peripheral eye, his looking peripherically, he'd look at Tessa and he'd be like, no, I can't. Like he won't be able to focus. So he decided that he wanted to leave Charleston so that he could avoid, sinning by, maybe consummating that relationship. But anyways, you guys, so this book, as you can tell, I had a lot of things to say about this book, but man, it was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed the story. For people who are passionate about historical fiction, but like with real, true facts, you need to pick this up. And at the end, she mentions the people, the real people. Author's note. So she talks to you about the real people she mentioned that were mentioned in the book, real stories. And then she says here, while all my central characters are fictional, they interact with many people who really lived. To the best of my ability, I have portrayed these figures as the historical record reveals them, inventing as little as possible. Yo, that's why those things I highlighted, I knew it was not just her trying to come up with these words and sayings about Negroes and stuff like that. In some cases, I have adapted their actual words into my text, such as John Horace's chilling statement to his enslaver or Father Baker's farewell over the tomb of Bishop England. The following is a list of these historical figures. So there you have it. And then this book ends on what is it? A cliffhanger. Because I'm like, I need to pick this book. I actually added it in my card, so I'm going to actually order it this week. I want to read what happens. The next one is, I think she says something about the saints. Yes, Lost Saints is the next one. And then there is Native Stranger. So I can't wait to finish this book. And I hope you guys, if you are intrigued and any of my review from this book has encouraged you guys to pick it up, I hope you pick it up. So next, I am reading this book, which is Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. And as you can tell, I have read this much. So this story is the story about obviously Monday and Claudia. Claudia and Monday, I believe, are getting ready to go to high school, and which means they're in junior high school. And I could tell that by the way the author wrote a letter that Claudia is writing to Monday. So the story is that she's missing Monday, and the way it begins is that they are going back to school. It's the new year, and it was summer. She didn't see Monday all summer, so she's quite excited to see her at school. But first week comes, Monday's nowhere to be seen. She tries to go see the mom, and the mom is absolutely rude to her. Like, she's like a monster to Claudia, and Claudia does not get it. Like, she's like, what's going on here? And later on, she actually sees the sister. She tries to ask the sister what's going on. The sister as well acts all brand new, like she don't know nothing. But then she does tell her to just stop. Like, she tells Claudia to be like, stop, like just let it be, like leave it alone. And this is a young girl. Obviously, she doesn't know what's going on. At this point, she is trying to get the attention of her teachers, asking the principal what's going on, asking like if she's still registered in the school. Like, no one is trying to tell her anything, and everybody seems to just kind of let the issue pass by. Like, no one is saying anything about it. And the hard part about this is that when she tries to talk to her parents about it, they're like acting like you should not mind people's business. Like, they don't want to get involved in people's business. And that's true. I mean, I'm kind of torn with this story because I understand the concern that Claudia has regarding Monday. But also as a parent, like if I see my neighbor, and I mean, if we're close, it's different, I'll be like, okay, what's going on? Like, I haven't seen your daughter and things like that. And in this situation, the parents are separated. So, but in this instance, Claudia mentions the fact that Monday has never mentioned having a relationship with a dad. So when later on in the story, the mom says, we'll go, because Claudia begs her mom, she finally accepts to go see Monday's mom in order to get some answers. So when she goes and sees the mother tells Janet, I think that's Claudia's name, that, oh, you didn't know she's actually at her father's. And obviously, Claudia's mom is like, really? Because they never had a relationship since when? But anyway, she leaves it. And that's what I'm saying. She's like, I can't really insist on this. Like, it's not my business. I can only go so far. So she goes back and tries to explain it to Claudia. But then what I liked about it finally is that at some point she does ask her husband to like look into it, see if Monday is really with the dad. So yeah, I'm really enjoying the story. My heart is palpitating at times because I'm like, what is going on? Like, I don't understand how it's not even that they're teenagers. How does a teen go unnoticed for so long, and why are people acting so suspicious? Like the mom, the sister, the school. At some point they do mention something about social worker, and Claudia is like, what is a social worker? And the way the author breaks down the story, she says like you have 1 year before the before. Then at some point she says the before. I think the before is like the current time. And then you have the after. And this is the letter that I was talking about that Claudia writes to Monday. She actually misspells some words, but it's so cute. It's really cute. So when the author actually goes back a bit, I guess, in the before, so talking about like their past and their friendship and how they grew up, you learn a little bit. So I guess she gives us a bit of hints on the life of Monday, who Monday was prior to this, I guess, not disappearance, because we don't know if she disappeared, but prior to this absence that we are hearing about. She was this girl who had this friendship with Claudia, and she was really more of the outgoing one, ready to like take risks. She's like more fun, whereas Claudia is very shy. But she and Monday lives in a house where it's not really nice and stuff like that. She has a weird relationship with her mom. At some point you discover that there are like, she has scars on her body, and then she excuses it away with like she fell. She's very entrepreneurial. She does at some point at school, she decides that she's gonna braid boys' hair, and then she's gonna make a little bit of money. So she's a hustler like that. You know what I mean? So we discover that she had plans, she had dreams. She was a girl that knew how to get her own. So So far, I'm really having a good time with these books. So there you have it, you guys. I hope to actually update you more about Monday's Not Coming, hopefully later on. So talk to you later.
One eternity later.
Hey my people, I hope you're doing fantastic. So I am concluding this vlog finally. It is a month and a couple of weeks after, simply because the initial footage I had, I can't find it. So here I am filming again. But like I said, it is time to conclude the vlog. So when I last updated you, I was talking to you about this book, Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. The book that everyone has read and that I was enjoying quite a lot. So I believe I was telling you how Claudia was trying to find some answers and find out what happened to her friend, and no one was answering her, no one was coming to her aid. And I had mentioned that the way the book is broken down into is that you have the parts of before the before and 1 year after the before and so on. But obviously I'm not going to spoil the story for you guys, but I think just like you, I was shocked when I discovered the reality and the truth of not only what happened to Monday, but also to Claudia, what was going on with Claudia. I mean, it was quite a shock. Like, I didn't see it coming, that twist, especially when she's asking about going to see the father of Monday, because at some point she is with, what's his name, the guy that she has a little crush on, I forgot, but she's with them and she's talking to him, and I think they're at a location, a place where she's like, she sees some kind of news on the TV, and I think that's what will trigger the rest of the events that follow after, because on there they're talking about the disappearance of a young girl and all that stuff, which that particular news had nothing to do with Monday. But her seeing that, her hearing that, and them going to see the dad were the triggering points that finally got Claudia to find out what had happened, right? So anyways, you guys, I really enjoy this book. It was written in an original way. I hadn't read a story like that for a YA book. It was really done properly, nicely. So I mean, I know y'all have read it, but if you haven't read it, I encourage you guys to read it. So it's a 4 out of 5 for me. It's a 4 out of 5 for me. Okay, you guys, so like I said, that concludes the vlog, this long vlog. I hope you enjoyed watching me talk to you about the books, watching me cook, watching me go to the African market and get my stuff. I hope you enjoyed the whole video, and if you liked it, please, let me know in the comments. And also, if you want to ever see something different from me, let me know, because even though I want to have all these contents put out for you, I find myself restrained on time, so I most basically have time to either do a wrap up, a TBR, and then maybe a vlog. But if there are different kinds of content you guys would want to see, please let me know in the comments. I'd love that. So on this note, you guys, I'm wishing you a beautiful summer. Summer is almost done, but I hope you're enjoying summer, the outdoors, and life is going great for you guys. And I will see you in my next video. All right, so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Bye.